Hi, everybody. I'm Beth, the president of SEPAC SOMA. I'm just going to give a few updates before I'm going to turn it back over to Vicki to get started with Alice and Nicole. But I wanted to mention that we have a few upcoming meetings and an event that we're excited about. We have our March 24th is going to be an in-person meeting at Seth Boyden, and it is focusing on the transition for preschoolers into kindergarten, the preschoolers with IEPs into kindergarten. There will be district events around that transition. I can't really speak to that, but we are having a one where we're going to be inviting hopefully case managers and teachers will be there. We're kind of on pause with that because of the contracts, but we expect that won't be in our way. And but having some parents there who have gone through the experience too. So if you're interested, or put the word out for that. And the other meeting we'll be having also about transitions, and this is from 5th to 6th and 8th to 9th, and that's April 29th at Columbia. And again, we're going to be looking to have people there to answer questions. And this is for students who are going through that transition with IEPs. And the middle schools and the high school also do things around that, I believe. I know that the high school definitely does. But this is just for, so CPAC can also provide another opportunity for people to learn things, and especially I think from other parents and students. So, and the last thing I want to mention is we're going to have our resource fair again on May 3rd, Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. So just note that in your calendars to stop by. We're going to have lots of local people, plus it looks like we're going to have a few more outside resources that we're also excited about. So, all right, that's all I've got right now. So Vicki, I'm handing it back to you.
So, hey everyone, my name is Vicky Bond. I am the CPAC Access and Equity VP. And I just want to say happy Black History Month. And, please forgive me, but I'm going to start off with a bit of a bummer. We all know that in schools, once a child is identified as having special needs, educators often have fixed ideas about students' needs and their potential. We also know that it's an unfortunate fact that limited and low expectations are disproportionately there for Black kids. This is why CPAC decided that we would ask Nicole, Josey, and Ellis Peters, who work with neurodivergent and disabled kids in our community, to come tonight. Nicole designs inclusive programming. Ellis teaches neurodivergent swimmers. Ellis and Nicole see what our kids are capable of doing outside of school. In the case of food prep, Nicole helps kids learn how to sustain themselves. The work you do, Ellis, you literally teach people how to save their own lives and the lives of others in the pool. So Black History Month is about acknowledging the contributions of Black people past and present. We are so lucky here in Soma to have community members like you, Ellis and Nicole, who contribute to our kids' futures. Thank you. We salute you. Thank you both. So
Cheers.
Nicole is from Orange. Yeah, I love that, Nicole, because I'm from East Orange. And yeah, Nicole has lived in Soma for 12 years, where she has two neurodivergent children. She is a volunteer extraordinaire, right, including in many PTA roles for nearly a decade. Among them, Nicole has been the Marshall PTA. Nicole has been, I think, are you currently the co-chair of the President's Council, Nicole?
Yep.
Yeah, because you didn't add this stuff in your bio. So I'm trying to fill in the fine details of your volunteer leadership roles, which have been numerous. Also, Nicole served in the role I currently have on the CPAC board. Nicole also serves on other community boards that focus on serving disabled and neurodivergent kids here in Soma. If you didn't think Nicole was busy enough, she also has a career. Nicole retired from her life as a professional baker of 11 years in 2024. Currently, Nicole is working at the Y as the birthday party and rental coordinator, where she is helping to grow their inclusive programming. Nicole is just an amazing human being. Well, we know that. Nicole has been at the Y for over a year, and her passion is making the community inclusive for all kids. And I have to say really fast, Nicole, you were one of the first people I met when I moved back to Soma in 2019 at Montrose. So I met you, and you were really kind to me at the playground, waiting for the kids to come out. And I also met Beth at the same time. So you all are close to my heart because, you just were open, loving, informed community members who welcomed me with open arms. So thanks, Nicole. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. So after that introduction, I don't know what else there's left to say. But yeah, so my name is Nicole Josey. I am, I guess you would say, a volunteer extraordinaire. But I actually have retired from baking and found my new passion, which is working in the community that I love so much, that I volunteered so much, and that's at working at the Y. And so I am the birthday party and rental coordinator, and I've also kind of just become their events coordinator as well, and helping to build the inclusive programming. When I had my bakery, I used to do a lot of inclusive baking classes. And so I ended up taking that and bringing it to the Y. And now I do two inclusive baking classes on Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. I get to work with the best kiddos that I could ever have. Honestly, the best part of my week is Saturday mornings, working with these kids. They are truly amazing, and it's just such a diverse mix of kids. My first class is all boys in the morning at 9 a.m., ranging in the ages from 10 to 12. And it's four of them, and they are truly just they so patient with each other. They're just always asking questions, always using what they know. I can give you a story. We had one of the boys, he was saying the noises were too loud, and his mom had forgot his headphones. And one of the other boys was like, I have mine, you can use mine. And so they're just so helpful. My second class is the younger kids, and it's a mix of neurotypical and neurodivergent kids in that class. And honestly, they don't even know who's who, right? They all just mesh well. They all mix well. They help each other. They make each other laugh. We play games when we're waiting for things to bake in the oven. And it's just amazing to see that when you provide an environment where kids can actually be themselves, how much they show you. Um, One of the other things that I've been working on at the Y is we are having an egg hunt to celebrate Neurodiversity Month in April. We are partnering with Together We Bloom for this event. Um, and the story behind that, Kim is actually on the call, so she knows this story. But every year we used to take my son Aiden to egg hunts, but they were always 2 hours away on a farm somewhere. And last year, my husband Will said, why don't we have something like this where we live, like up there where we live? And I was just like, I don't know. And he was just like, well, you should start one. That was exactly what he said. And so I took the opportunity to bring the idea to my bosses at the Y, and they were all for it. They were like, let's do it. Let's figure out how to do it, what accommodations we need to make. And so now we are having that on April 13th. So we will post flyers, and we're working on the marketing, and we're putting together a social story and all of these things for this amazing event that I hope will become an annual thing. So a lot of what I've been working on with them at the Y is just, I think that a lot of times people get overwhelmed at the idea of having a neurodivergent kid in a class or in a camp, and they say, oh my God, we're going to have to change all of these things just to make sure that this child is comfortable. And what I've been working with them at the Y to understand is that a lot of times the accommodations are very simple. They're not extravagant. It doesn't require something so much. It just requires a lot of patience, really, and thinking differently about how a child might react in certain environments. Uh, and then when they are overwhelmed, how can we help them de-escalate? So that's what I've been working a lot with the why to think about. Even through the birthday parties, every single birthday party I do, we provide a quiet space in every single party. So if you have a child that needs to decompress, I have a room for them where they can go. They can build blocks, they can color, they can just sit and just listen or whatever they need in that space. So I started providing that for every party. So if a child needs it, we have those spaces there, calming spaces. But just getting people to understand that the accommodations are not as overwhelming as you think they are. Or if a child is overwhelmed, how do we react to it? How do we understand that it's not necessarily a behavior thing, but it's just overstimulation, or just getting them to think about that in a different way. And like even for our training for summer camp this year, we're looking to bring in, possibly Together We Bloom, to train the counselors on how to deal with kids that are neurodivergent, that are attending our camps and our programs. Because if we are going to really be a Y for all, then we really need to be a Y for all. Everyone needs to be welcome there. Everyone needs to have a place there. There. So that's really what I've been working with the Y on in my role, and just hoping to keep developing more inclusive programming through it. So. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I want to, I don't know if we should do questions for each of you or maybe do questions. We were thinking we would do questions for both of you. So, Ellis, are you ready for your bio? You ready to hear your bio, Ellis?
Yeah, sure. Let's go. Let's roll.
So, let's see. Of all my random papers here, let's see. Ellis, where's your bio? Here it is. So, everyone, Ellis has dedicated his career to working with swimmers of all ages, skill levels, from 6-month-old beginners to competitive athletes, including a remarkable 102-year-old swimmer. A Washington, D.C. native, Ellis learned to swim at his local YMCA, Nicole, local YMCA, and grew up participating in swimming, soccer, and track. He played lacrosse during his freshman year of college and later competed in kickboxing as a young adult. Community service has always been a cornerstone of Ellis's personal and professional life. He has worked with nonprofit organizations such as the 92nd Street Y and Asphalt Green, helping to develop young swimmers. His coaching experience includes roles as an assistant coach at AGUA swim team, Agua swim team, head coach of the Flying Dolphins swim team, and assistant head coach of the JCC Thunderbird swim team. Beyond swim coaching, Ellis has worked as a group fitness instructor at Equinox Fitness, led swim clinics, and has taught water exercise classes to seniors. A lifelong water enthusiast, Ellis is passionate about sharing his love of swimming with others. Ellis, you're just the best. I got to get Keats into baking. I got to get him into your class, Nicole. We got to get out of bed on Saturday morning. And I am just so lucky and grateful that my son Keats has had an opportunity to take swim lessons with Ellis now for 2 years.
Yeah, it's been 2 years.
And
yeah.
it's just been amazing to see him grow as a swimmer, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you, Ellis. So thank you. From my heart to your heart. Thank you, Ellis.
Right on. I guess I should get started on how I became involved locally. There's the closing of the pool at the Columbia High School happened recently. I think folks might be aware of that. And there's a nonprofit locally, a nonprofit, Soma Justice, that looking for an instructor that's willing to teach adults and neurodiverse swimmers. And I have experience in both. I really hadn't done anything locally with swimming here. Most of the stuff I've done has been in Manhattan, but I was willing to give it a try. We set up a pilot program at between the Maplewood pool and the South Orange pool the first year. And I think on my days off, I taught one day during the week and a couple days on Saturday and Sunday. And I think we taught maybe 40 lessons the first summer. And twice as much the second summer, and it's been growing, but I've been the only instructor. But I've been able to connect with each swimmer, meet them where they are, and grow with them. They teach me as I teach them, and it's a very rewarding experience. When it comes to, this is a Black History Month celebration, so when it comes to race in swimming, it's there's a historical context on why there have been barriers and obstacles for folks that are Black to have access and opportunity to a pool or swimming lessons or anything like that. We all might be very familiar. I don't want to keep
Speak on it,
speaking on
Ellis.
that.
Speak on it. No, you can speak on it.
Well, there is historically, when we go back to, even before Jim Crow laws and segregation, learning how to read, write, and swim was something that, enslaved people weren't really allowed to do unless it had to do with the work that they were doing. Because these are all ways of, escaping and being independent. So not being able to swim can keep you, enslaved, can kind of hold you captive. When we talk about segregation, hey, they're just, public pools just didn't allow Black folks to swim with white folks. So we have that. That's a very real history. We moved on from that. Hopefully, and again, that's why at the beginning of the whole thing, I'd say, Black History Month has a new context for us because this is a history that some folks want to erase, and folks will just have an understanding that certain folks can't do certain things and not have a historical context of why this group can't do this, or why very few, how come I don't really see Black people swimming on television? Well, in the last 20 years, there have been a few African-American swimmers in the U.S. Olympic team that have won medals and have done very well. So we have that context, but there's more. So for me, when I look at communities like my own, and then I look deeper into the neurodiverse community, just the numbers are against us. Neurodiverse swimmers are more likely to drown than other folks. And if you're a Black person, you're more likely to drown than other folks. So these two groups, they intersect. And when they intersect, I see it. I actually understand why a lot of folks don't see it or understand or have context for it. But for me, it's a very real thing. So when I heard about the closing of the pool, and I realized that in this area, there aren't a lot of year-round pools. Our local Y, the South Mountain Y, doesn't have a pool, but there are Ys. I think East Orange has one. The Y of the Oranges in West Orange has a pool. But, there just aren't a lot of pools. And in Manhattan, I want to tell you that there are thousands. And for such a small amount of real estate to have so many pools, you can walk a couple blocks and you pass 3 pools very easily, whether you know about them or not. It's not like that here. So folks that have access traditionally to swimming lessons and to swimming pools, there's a socioeconomic, buy into that situation that a lot of folks don't have. And what we've done with Soma Justice, we try to give as much access and opportunity to not only the access to the Maplewood pool, but to lessons. So, and in the end, I think it was last summer. There was one family. There were no swimmers. A daughter and the son, the daughter Trinity, the son Ryan, started with me in the beginning of the summer. In July, both the parents started taking lessons, and then for the August, they bought the August pass for the Maplewood pool. So this is like a family like lifestyle adjustment, and they're able to enjoy the pool. Now when they go on vacation, they have something to do, another activity they can do, and they can feel safe about participating in it. And I think it was the children, learning to swim in front of the parents, and mom taking videos and then showing the father, and the father's like, well, maybe we should try. And then, at the end of the summer, the whole family started swimming. So for me, this is like a win-win, because that family is automatically safer, along with learning how to swim. There's just the awareness that you have when you're in areas, knowing like, hey, I shouldn't go there swimming now. This is probably not a safe time. So, safety is the priority. Um, uh, I feel I can talk literally 3 days about swimming and why it's so important. So if folks have questions, particularly in dealing with neurodiverse swimmers, and maybe developing gross motor skills and working on issues of like low muscle tone, swimming is a great situation for that. Just being in the water, playing around in the water. If you're able to get a child in the water while they're an infant, for a while, just playing, splashing, singing songs, throwing toys around. There's a study by the Griffin Institute out of Australia that said that was sponsored by a bunch of swim advocates and swim schools, that these children hit cognitive and milestones before folks who don't. So again, this is why I'm such an advocate for as many people getting in the water for as early as possible, because it helps us later on in life, throughout our life. So I think it's just an overall great thing, and particularly for folks like me, we're really affected.
Go ahead, Nicole.
I was gonna say my son also has taken swim lessons with Ellis for 2 years, and he is semi-verbal, verbal when he wants to, right? But Ellis has been like a game changer for him, and has grew his love of swimming. Even when he went to camp, he was going swimming every day. And then when he came back to Ellis last summer, Ellis was like, I could tell he's been swimming.
Yeah.
He's been learning so much, and for a kid who also has low muscle tone, it's been so helpful and translated into his PT. So thank you so much, Ellis. I tell you every summer. Yeah, we're so grateful for you. So
Yeah, that's great to hear. Hopefully we'll set something up for this spring as well.
oh yes. Yes.
Yeah. I think Lindsay had her hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to give another testimonial to Ellis, and then also bring up like just a couple of thoughts, because I have a deep connection to both of you. And I'm like so proud that you're both like two of my really, really good friends, and that my kids know you and love both of you. And specifically Ellis, we've been talking. Ellis and I met on the jitney, and he's my neighbor. So I don't know when did you move to Soma? How many years ago was that?
I think we're going on the 6th This June would be the
6 years
sixth
ago.
year. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we met in the jitney. Our kids are in school together, so we've, bonded over special education and just things in the community. And I feel like one of the most egregious decisions that this district has done amongst many is you know, what happened to the pool. And you're totally starting to fill a void in the community. And my son, Benny, we've been talking about him having lessons with you for a while. And finally, a few months ago, they just started happening. So watching Alice in action, you guys, like, you don't have a background in formal special education, but watching him work with these kids, he's better than better or as good as some of the best special education teachers that we've experienced. Um, like it's miraculous. Benny has had swim lessons at professional, expensive swim places I will not mention. We, poured hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars into swim lessons for this child, and he would hit walls and just not want to do it and not progress and regress over the years and with COVID happening. And last summer he did swim team with South Orange, and like he passed the deep water test, and it's very loving. The swim team was very loving and accepting, but he was basically doggy paddling across the pool. And the whole pool, cheered for him when he finished, and it was a beautiful thing, but he really didn't have the swim skills. And over the last few months, Ellis has developed this kid, like he's doing actual strokes and breathing properly, and like it's absolutely incredible to like watch what you do. And I almost want to like gatekeep it because I don't, there's only one of you. And so, but I want to talk about like how we can figure out to actually get things moving so more people do have access to your skill set, and you're able to like train other instructors in the magic that you do and get more people to be doing it. And yeah, so I just think it's absolutely incredible. And the other thing I wanted to say about Nicole is just like, you are such an extraordinaire. And I always think about like how many hours you have put into the PTAs in this district. And like, it's so much unpaid labor. And I'm happy that you have the position at the Y because you're like actually being financially compensated for a lot of the work that you do. But it's I don't think people realize how much work and hours and like blood, sweat, and tears you've put in. So I just wanted to like thank you for all of your like time and love that you've put into helping people and kids in the district.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Do we have any questions? Any more comments? Any more love? Anyone want to get on the love boat?
I have a
We're on the
question.
love boat.
Yeah, I have a question. Um, and it kind of ties in with what you're saying, Lindsay, is so how do people find you? How do they know like about the lessons and about the classes? How can we help get that word out about what you do, and how can people connect with you? And Nicole, I know that you had put out the word a while back of like, what are people interested in for inclusive classes at the Y and things like that. And it's like, where I'm kind of curious on where you are, if that's moving in any direction, and if you want more feedback, and if we can assist with that in some ways. And so, yeah, that's just curious to hear like from you all how people can connect with you or how we can help people connect with you.
Well, you can definitely find me at the website at, and Josey at metroymcas.org. I give it out all the time. I actually have business cards now, so it's good.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm working on trying to fit in how we can make more programming, but obviously I'm very particular about people who teach these programs because I don't want to just throw anyone into that position, right? Because it needs to be someone with patience and understanding, and someone that understands that all kids think differently, process differently, work differently. So it'll be more so about trying to figure out like the people to teach the programming and things like that. So I really am, it's like a passion project right now, trying to figure out how I can make it bigger. So like the baby step is the egg hunt. Just showing that we have a large neurodiverse population that want programming. The cooking class was also a baby step because the first class was sold out and I had a wait list. And then it got to the point where the wait list got longer and I was like, okay, I got to open up a second class, which was amazing, right? And being able to show the why, that there is a need for this and there's a want for this in our community. So just like I was actually speaking to another mom earlier on the phone just about like when we have these programs, we just need our populations to show up and support them because the only way they continue and grow is if they have support to do so. So the same thing, like even with the swimming with Ellis, the more people we can get, the more we can grow the programs, right? So I mean, you can always find me. Everyone knows where I am. And most people have my phone number because it hasn't changed from the bakery days. It's the same phone number. So yeah, so I'm always open on what we can do to just make this community more inclusive, and to continue to just grow that programming because I just feel like sometimes I just see like kids playing basketball and I'm just like, my son could do that if he had the right person to be patient with him to teach him, right? So I think about that. And instead of, I don't know, I'm just kind of like a person who just kind of, I'm not going to get sad about it. What can I do to fix that? Right? That's just my attitude about things. Like, how can I change that so he can have those experiences that other kids are having? So I think, yeah, that's just like when we have the programming, just support it, help us market it, tell people where to find us. I usually always try to do a lot of social media marketing because it's the quickest and cheapest way to get to people really fast. And I just learned that from my baking days, so that's why I'm always on there trying to promote the programs and like the classes and stuff. But I think that's where we have to go with it.
Yeah. Well, given that the Maplewood and South Orange rec departments don't offer, and they're in a part of the consortium for the TriCan Summit programs, but again, that's not, it's Summit, it's not here. And so, I'm thinking it would do well for them to include what you all are offering in their weekly emails, I think. They used to include the TriCan, but they haven't even been bothering to do that lately. So, maybe we'll mention that, to some people over there and see, because you're right, it's getting the word out. And once people know, then it will, like you said, it's like all of a sudden you're gonna get waiting lists. Because people are eager to have that opportunity to be able to provide their kid with extracurricular activities in the local community. So,
Right.
How about you, Ellis? Because right now you're doing swim classes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're teaching swim classes right
yeah.
now.
So, unfortunately, it's the issue of like, if it was a basketball court, there's plenty of them. If it was a soccer field, there's plenty of fields. Hey, like there's always somewhere to go. But with the with the swimming pool, it's really limiting around here. I do have access to a pool in Union, the Boys and Girls Club in Union. I rent a few lanes and I do a few things there. but like because of the scheduling there, and like that's the only thing that I have going, I can't really, I can only grow the program so much. However, in the summertime, when the town pools open, I spent a lot of time in the Maplewood town pool working with Aiden in Keats and a few other swimmers, and I thought it went really well there. I'll probably do something similar there, and just set up a schedule with folks. And we did this program through Soma Justice. They're the ones that kind of connected me with the pool and enabled me to kind of do this. So, we'll probably set up something similar. I want to meet with them soon to see if we can do something for the spring. If we can get something going before the town pools open to even, just get people going in before that. But yeah, I'm limited in time and space. So if anyone has a pool, indoor pool that needs you want some lessons, like, let's talk. But yeah, it's weird because moving to New Jersey after living in the city for so long, I lived in the city like 28 years, and I just assumed that the suburbs would have more pools, but that is not the truth. Not around here anyway. So
Kim, I think Kim had her hand up. Kim, are you there?
Yeah, hey.
Hey.
Yeah, hi. It was related a little bit to what we were speaking about before, but I just wanted to jump in the conversation about in terms of like getting the word out there. And again, thank you to both of you for talking tonight and getting to hear your side of the story, because I know of both of you and all of your incredible work in the community. But yeah, I just wanted to like acknowledge, right, that so much of the conversation is how each of you have profoundly helped so many individuals and so many families of neurodivergent and disabled kids, and like that obviously is a huge thing, and the importance of like getting the word out so people know that you exist. But I feel like I need to acknowledge how important it is for the community at large to just know the work that you're doing. And so that, like, even if you are not a family that has a neurodivergent or disabled child, or you're not neurodivergent yourself, you all doing this work and naming neurodivergence and naming that, especially the intersection of race and disability, and like the importance of that has just a profound impact on our community as a whole. So wanting to thank you in the overall outreach that you do in making disability more talked about, right? Because even before I met, Nicole, I know now Ellis, we haven't gotten a chance to meet, but right, I've heard you guys because of the incredible work you've done. Sorry, kids are here. The important work that you've done in the community. So just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you both for that.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, I have learned over the years, my son has autism. I've learned so much about him physically, and this is something that I've talked a little bit with you, Ellis, about bilateral movement being very challenging for him. And I think that this is something that you see across, autism, from, simple tasks like holding a can and opening the top, to complex tasks like playing the piano with both hands at the same time. So something like swimming, and Nicole, something like, mixing, pouring, stirring. These are things that I think a lot of people take for granted if, you're not confronting kind of all the fine minutia that goes into what most of us think of as pretty simplistic tasks. So I was just wondering if you all could kind of talk up the OT, PT, executive functioning piece of what you do, because I feel like this is a lot of what families with neurodivergent and disabled kids, this is what we're looking for. And in the two of you, we have such an enormous resource in our community. So if you could talk about any OT, PT, executive functioning stuff, that would be great.
I
You
can I
go
can
first,
start.
Ellis. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, in terms of swimming, swimming is again, it is it's, for many years, folks have always heard that swimming is the best exercise. Yes, like this is something that is not a new thing. So when it comes to particularly dealing with someone who has issue with gross motor functions, um, it's a great environment if they're safe and have proper guidance to develop these skills with the progression that with swimming you learn how to swim. Now, when I met Keats, I believe Keats was able to pass the deep water test in the Maplewood pool fine. But when we started working on me assessing where he was, like how can he extend his arms? Was he aware where his arms were? As I did that over a series of lessons, I realized that we have to like literally build the stroke from the ground up and get his body in the right position, meaning his head's in the right position, his arms are extended, his legs are long. When he kicks with long legs, not bent knees. And when you're working with a neurodivergent swimmer, or I'll say this, when you're working with any swimmer, we have to apply the 3 Ps. You have to be patient, you have to be present, in being right there with them for the whole experience. And you have to be persistent because even if there is regression, and regression is something that happens like regularly, it's just a part of the game. So when there's regression, usually what I do is I redirect and I with another activity, and we end up circling back to it. And just kind of taking my time getting the pieces of the stroke together, one at a time. And the swimmer tells you, like this is the great thing about the process. For me is that I'm learning about them, and they're teaching me how they're going to receive the information. So with Keats and also with Benny, I had a cue where I first would make the motions with their arms, and then I would give them a cue to, hey, reach for my hand, give me a high five. Okay, and then when they give me the high five, we connect. I use their long arm, I put it in the water, and that becomes one stroke. And then they give the other hand another high five. So it starts out with 2 high fives, 4, 6, 12, and then before you know it, Keats is swimming a 25-yard lap with the same technique. And then after a while, it's not high fives. I'm just saying, hey, swim with long arms, man. You know what the arms are supposed to look like. Show me what the arms are supposed to look like. We've been working with the head position with both Keats and Benny, and both of them recently have gotten to the point where they can extend their arms in front of them. And for most swimmers, when folks think streamline, they want to keep their head up, but ideally you can tell if a swimmer is a real swimmer because they know that their head goes underneath their arms. So been able to get both Keats and Benny and some other swimmers that I work with just to kind of realize that this is what feels right, and to remember that that's the right feeling. And so when we do it this week, and if next week they can remember, it's great. So you just have to be patient with them, and they figure it out. Working with Aiden over the summer, I remember making some arm motions with Aiden and helping him float. And then, the first lesson that Aiden got in the pool, I could tell that Aiden was swimming because he was like, hey, I'm ready to float. I'm ready to float. I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, so you remember what floating is? I remember you're smiling and you're kind of like laughing. So I think you like to float. Let's float, man. Let's float. Let's add some kicks onto the float. And this is how we build just the awareness first, and then you kind of build the templates for the motion, and then with over time you're building a stroke. And if low muscle tone is an issue, they're working at it every second they're in the water, moving in the water, they're working on it. If they have a weak core, just by moving their arms and legs in the water, they're strengthening their core, working on the gross motor function. So there's always something to benefit from being in the pool. And this is again the intersection of like, hey, if you feel like you don't belong in a pool because you don't see people like that look like you on TV or on the internet in the pool enjoying themselves. And if your parents don't do it and you don't have cousins to do it and it's not like a thing to do, you're missing out on the whole experience of growth. And this is what we were really talking about, is the opportunity to grow in every direction possible. And I can speak about the swimming. I'm trying to go in other directions, as I'm sure all of you are. And whether our children are neurodivergent or not, they should have no limitations or no barriers, no challenges to their growth as a human. And I think this is why we're all here, and this is why we're a part of this community. And I think in a time now where all these things are kind of being looked at and scrutinized, and folks are developing real life in real time barriers to folks having these opportunities, it is up to us in our communities, local communities, to look at each other and let's figure it out. And I've always said, I don't want to get political, but during the first Trump administration, I was living in Brooklyn Heights, and I remember a woman walked up to me and she said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on the experience of my ancestors and the stories of my grandparents and the stuff that they told me growing up, because I know whatever that they went through is a lot harder than what we're going to go through. And maybe now it's might be a little bit closer to our grandparents' situation, but however, we have the strength of our ancestors to look back on and be like, hey, the reason that we can even have this meeting on a Zoom and like live the lives that we did is because of the people that came before us. So what I want to do is I want to be the best ancestor possible, and I know that I can definitely contribute in this fashion in this community. This is where I'm living, and I want to help as many people as possible in the context of this, because I know that this is something I can definitely help folks out with. And I encourage everybody to look within yourself and be like, hey, how can I contribute? Because this is what we need to do in times like this. When Victoria asked me to do this, I was like, absolutely, because I think that this is we need to have as many conversations. Hey, next month, I think Women's History Month in March, right? Hey, I'll be here for the Women's History Month talk too. I think it's like a thing that we all need to really be a part of and to engage in every direction possible, to be on board, to support each other. And that's what I got to say. That's all. I don't.
Yeah, Lindsay, do you want to go ahead, and then Kelly?
Sorry. I don't want to put Will and Liz on the spot, but since we have board members in the room and it's like a smaller group, it doesn't have to be now, but I'm just curious if we can brainstorm offline or right now, if it's appropriate, about like ways to collaborate with having the district partner with Ellis to like, kind of revisit the conversation about the swim program at the district level because it did used to be part of the curriculum. And I echo like Ellis's sentiments about everybody, having access to, learn how to swim since it's a life-saving skill and it's super important. And you're hearing testimony about how, it's not just a life-saving skill, but like, it's building so much confidence in our kids and, building community. And there's just so many other reasons why it's important. So I was just curious, if that conversation is being revisited or, encouraging you to, to connect and think about that.
I was going to defer to our chair of social services. Liz, you.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, it is not a conversation that we've actively been having, but I think always worthy of resurfacing, especially in light of having new leadership in place. I think, the time is present to revisit some of these conversations and see where folks' energy is around how we could tackle this moving forward and what we can do and how we can partner with the community. I know we have a lot of support in the community with the pool, the Maplewood pool, with Soma Justice around this issue. So certainly something I think, worthy of raising again and seeing what the temperature is.
Kelly, do you want to go ahead?
So this was kind of more for Vicky. Listening to all of this, I'm thinking about you talking recently about how important it was for you as a person of color to bond and experience having teachers for Keats that were also of color and how much that meant to you as a parent and as the parent of Keats. And I think that's such an important part of what Nicole and Ellis bring to this community is, to Ellis's point, you need to see other people that look like you. And I don't know, I just was thinking about that conversation, Vicky, and I thought maybe you could expand on that a little bit here.
Yeah, well, I think especially because my son is in self-contained and there is a deep stigma, I think, about self-contained programs and in our district. I think maybe, Beth can correct me if I'm wrong, but the self-contained rooms are disproportionately kids of color. And I think they're also disproportionately boys of color. And, with the stigma present, I think having a teacher of color, a Black teacher, it helps to give parents like me the sense that my child is not being thrown away, that there is someone there who sees my child as a child with potential and is speaking and teaching to that potential. And I think that, for Liz and Will here, across the district, my experience with the therapists in the district hasn't been that. I have not felt that the therapists have seen my kids, promise. And because they haven't had the imagination or experience to see the promise, they are blind, I think, sometimes to what's right in front of their face. I think this is where community members, Black community members like Ellis and Nicole, really kind of step into a kind of specific breach. The therapy providers across our district, there was a Black OT at Marshall, and that's all I know of. So, our therapy providers, what their backgrounds are, how they're working with kids, I think that that's something that the district should stick a pin in, about their cultural awareness. I think the other piece of this is that for, especially for Black boys And I think, I know Nicole is the mother of a Black boy. Ellis, when we first met at the pool a few summers ago, and I observed you, just waiting around there for Keats to be done or in the pool or whatever, Ellis, I mostly saw you teach neurodivergent Black boys. And that was, I think, in part because Soma Justice got the word out to a certain segment of our community. I think, for Liz and Will, especially at this moment where conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion are feeling kind of radioactive, I think that our community should really be thinking about what Black boys deserve and what they're not getting at school, and what people like Will, like Ellis and Nicole can help to provide, so Nicole being at the Y, and, Beth bringing up the Summit Trican program, like if there were a, a feeling at the Y that neurodivergent kids could go to the camp, maybe, kind of a spacey, I'm looking for the HVAC system kid like my son, I would be all for it. But it doesn't seem like those structures are yet in place, for more than one or two kids. It doesn't seem like there's space enough for a couple of kids that are on the spectrum and maybe present in ways that are, kind of a little bit off the map for people. So I think, Black service providers, Black teachers, especially in the self-contained space, are so important because families are able to collaborate with them, I think, more openly. And again, we have the sense from these professionals, or at least I've had the sense with my son's teachers, that my kid is not being thrown away. And I think that a lot of parents of kids in self-contained classrooms who have autism, I think that that is unfortunately a feeling that is pervasive. And I think that that's something that district, you know, leadership doesn't hear because those parents literally feel like they don't have a voice.
So, Vicky, 5 years ago when when we were planning this first race and special education, because this is our 5th year doing it, it was about the disparity in the more restrictive environments. And some people knew that that was the case, and certainly the people that were in those classes. Nicole, I know you knew because you spoke about it. But what a lot of people found out, because it was virtual school then in 2021, we were in the height of virtual COVID school, and parents could see the class makeups and say, wait a minute, I could see my daughter was the only white girl in the class. And, that was like, what is going on here? What is going on? And so we started asking the questions, and Dr. Alegria was the assistant superintendent at the time, and she said, yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. She knew from when and she spoke at the meeting and she talked about her sister, and that was why she got into special education, because she was in a basement room. Dr. Alegria was Black, or is Black, she's still around. Anyway, so, that it continues and we're still having the conversation. It's, it's
Yeah, well,
part
but
in what you're saying about, that having people look like the people that they're teaching and making those changes, but also making people recognize that this is not changing in the ways that it should be.
right. And this is something I mentioned in one of our CPAC talks, amongst ourselves, but Black boys who have a Black teacher between kindergarten and 4th grade have higher rates of high school graduation. Like this stuff matters. And, and this is actually something that Ellis shared with me. Some of you know that I have written about the author Zora Neale Hurston, and she's famous for being this kind of strange, proponent of segregated schools, but she wasn't really. But when you would ask her, like, why are you a proponent of segregated schools? And she would say, because if you have Black children in a school with white teachers, how do you think those Black children are going to be treated? So this is why I don't think segregated schools are the devil, because I think if you have teachers that respect and care for the children, that will be better for the children. And when race is a factor, that race and that respect and care and the acknowledgement and the vision for someone's potential, unfortunately, dims and falls by the wayside. So, again, for our executive board inviting Nicole and Ellis, I think it's just so important because Nicole and Ellis see our kids outside of the classroom and they see what they're capable of outside of school. And our kids with people like Nicole and Ellis don't carry all of the kind of the baggage and the weight and the stigma that they often have at school to the pool or to the kitchen at the Y. So that's why I think, especially now, it's important for us to think, as Ellis was saying, about how we can be there for each other as a community and help to create spaces where our kids can grow because they're literally unshackled, to kind of use the parlance of Black history. They don't have the same shackles in these other settings outside of school that they often do inside of it.
Well, you guys know I could probably go on this subject for many, many
Mm.
hours because I've been advocating for all of this for 7 years, since my daughter first started kindergarten. And just as a parent of two kids that are neurodivergent and on opposite ends of the spectrum, I see the racial disparities in sexualism too as well, because I have my daughter who is also high functioning on the spectrum, very easy, very polite, very does everything that she's supposed to do, and school has been, oh yes, a breeze. She's been able to get everything she needs. Services have been handed to her on a platter. I probably have not had to fight for mostly any of the things that she's gotten in this school district. And then came along my son 4 years later. And from the day he stepped foot in Soma schools, it's been a fight for everything. Um, and they're both African American. One's a girl, one's a boy. But he has different challenges from her. Requires a lot more assistance, requires a lot more support. And you would think that if you have the kid that's screaming, "Hey, look at me, I need help. I need all the help you could get," it would be easier to get. As opposed to my daughter who masks a lot of what she needs. And it's been totally opposite. It's been easy to get her everything, and it's been hard to get him a lot of things. And that's just as me as an African American parent in the school district. A lot of times people ask me, why do I volunteer for everything? Why do I put my hand up? Why am I on every board? Why do I want to be a PTA president? Why have I and I'm actually probably going to be Psalms HSA president next year. I just put that out to you guys now. But why do I keep raising my hand for all of these things? Because when your voice is not in the room, they forget about you. And that's mostly why. And then also when I first came to this district, and when I was learning what autism was and neurodivergence, and I had a million questions as a new parent who didn't understand any of that. A lot of the people that I met in this community took the time to answer me, like Beth and Ann and Lindsay and Kelly, and I can go on for decades for how many people have actually helped me and my family. And that's why I want to give so much of myself back to this community, because despite what goes on in the school district, the people here, that I've met and I've been friends with and have helped me and my family along the way and supported us, have been amazing. So that's the plus side of it, and that's why I fight so hard and advocate so hard for all of our kids all the time, because there are some amazing community members, and just, just like the race thing is just a constant thing. And I feel like it's been 7 years. It's been 7 years, Vicky. And it's still a thing. Even my son is now out of district, so he's no longer in the school district. But even when we were going to visit all of the private schools to try to figure out where to put him in, there were a lot of schools that were amazing and had a lot of amazing programs. But the school that I ended up putting him in had the most kids that looked like him. That was the school I put him in. And even though it's Nutley, and there's no other kids that really go there from our district, I could have easily put him in one of the schools that all the kids from our district goes to. But when I went to that school, I didn't see a lot of kids that looked like him. But when we went to this school, we walked in and we saw service providers that looked like him. We saw kids in his class that look like him. His class has 6 kids, and they are the most diverse group of kids I've ever seen. And then you even see the kids that older in the school, and so it became the place for him. But because when he goes there, he sees himself every single day, and that's different than from when he was here. Um, and like the only people he saw that looked like him were all in his self-contained class. And when he stepped outside, everyone else didn't look like him anymore. So
Thanks, Nicole. Nicole, I remember your comments from one of this meeting from 2 years ago when you talked about going in to the self-contained at Marshall and how all the kids were Black and all the kids were boys.
yes, that was my daughter's first year. We were starting kindergarten. She was in self-contained, and now her class had a lot of African American boys. But I noticed, this was Mr. Wilcio's class actually in Marshall at the time, and I looked over. We're standing out in line, and I'm like, why are all the kids going to that class Black boys? And I said it to my husband, and of course, my husband goes, "Mind your business." That's what he says to me first, but anybody knows me, I can't mind my business. So it ended up being talking to the principal, hey, can I have a meeting with you? I became the special ed liaison because of that, actually. That was my first position on a PTA board. And then I had a meeting with the principal just about what special education means at Marshall. And my first question to her was, why do you have a class full of African American boys? And she had no answer for me. And then maybe like 2 or 3 months later, they disbanded the class and they changed the makeup and it didn't look like that anymore. And I said, well, how easy was that? Just for someone to say something for things to change. And that's why I try to encourage parents all the time. Like I know it's hard sometimes, but just saying something, even if it's an email, phone call, sometimes they need to just hear that you noticed that something is not right sometimes. So
Hey, Liz, did you have your hand up, Liz?
I did. And then I also realized I accidentally unmuted way too early. So apologies if there was background noise. I will someday get good at Zoom. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for sharing these concerns and also kind of like drawing us in as board members with that perspective. I did want to acknowledge just the frustration that I hear tonight. It resonates with me. I think navigating special education is challenging. And I say that with love as someone who, when I'm not a board member, I'm in special education, particularly how challenging it can be when you add, that intersection of race on top of it. Finding those supportive spaces for Black and Brown neurodivergent children certainly adds a layer of challenge. And I really appreciated that nuanced conversation tonight. Particularly hearing the concerns about the need for more Black service providers and teachers in our self-contained programs, where collaboration really is like the cornerstone to making that such a successful experience, and relies so much on the trust you're able to build with teachers and providers. That representation is always important, but I think particularly like struck me in the context of how it plays out, having taught in those classrooms before. And also the feeling, that some students, especially our Black boys, are not getting what they need, what they deserve, is really troubling and something that I do take really seriously. And I take that responsibility to make sure I elevate this issue in terms of our hiring practices, in terms of our professional development practices. I know in my professional life, like I've worked in spaces where it was really important, and we focused a lot on intentional hiring. When I was in Newark, we worked really hard to make sure that our related service team was reflective of the students that we served. And so I say that to say that it is possible. It just requires some additional thought and intention. And my hope is that in elevating conversations like this, that we're able to move the needle in that direction here. For our district and our kids. So thank you for raising that, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your firsthand experiences tonight. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, do we have any other questions or comments? It's 8:15, everyone. It's how did this happen? We went over, Beth. It's 8:15.
Yeah, my daughter just came up, so I know it's time.
Hey, babe.
You see Miss Nicole?
Hey. Is Mommy, are you done yet?
Just about.
Yeah, we're done. We're almost done. Well, again, I just want to give Nicole, Ellis, the biggest hugs, most giant thanks. Thank you for being you, especially now. It's Black History Month for a few more days. So again, thank you for being just extraordinary community members who are contributing so much to the future of our kids. Thank you both so much.
Thank
Thank
you for
you. Thank
having
you. I appreciate the opportunity to share some experience with you all and to be a part of the conversation. And I wanted to say, if anyone wanted to get in contact with me, that's one thing I didn't do is I can give you my email, and it's like just my general email. It's my name, ellispeters@gmail.com. If you wanted to talk swimming or set up a lesson possibly or something, yeah, that's the best way to reach me. Hi, Annie.
Yeah, oh, everyone's kids are showing up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Like
witching
in reverse,
hour.
the kids are home and
Yeah.
now we gotta go. Not the parents
Yeah,
are home, we got.
exactly. Okay, well, thank you all. I hope you have a good rest of your Black History Month. Good night. Thanks again
Thank
to
you,
Alice and
everyone.
Thanks,
Nicole.
everybody.
Thank
This was
you.
great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.